Welcome back to the Berg Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Ford
Hey, how's it going?
and Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And today we're talking about what's coming next. So we made it through the Thanksgiving season, all a little heavier, a little sleepier. But as we get back to work this week, as we turn the corner, we're looking ahead at future backlog and future schedule. And more so beyond that, actually, I think a little bit of some of the indication of what's coming in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, so we each season we're getting ready for the next season, but at the same time as we shift and the team really starts to get ready for the next season, we start to focus as a management team on the following season, staying one ahead at least. And we've talked a lot about concerns we have over the course of everything going on and what jobs we have and the labor market and everything else. And one of the things that we want to really be clear on is how much backlog we have. We're seeing a lot of jobs come down the road. We're seeing a lot of opportunities and a lot of jobs locally that we can go after. So all those things are positives, and it puts us in a position where we have work laid out in front of us for the foreseeable future to keep us busy and maybe even grow a little bit if we wanted to numbers wise. And so we just need to focus on going to work and doing the work that's in front of us and keeping it going, because there's really nothing indicating a change in terms of our backlog.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of talk in the media, and pretty much any forecaster or financial analyst has said that the slowdown's happening, right? Maybe it's here. Maybe we don't see it yet. Maybe it's coming in the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months.
Sometime in the future, it will happen. We just don't know
it's
when.
going to happen, right? We get that. We know that these things come in cycles. And what's important though is I think to not let the potential for something that's going to happen prevent us from doing the things we're supposed to be doing now, right?
Well, not only that, but I think we have to kind of take a little bit of a lesson on how some of this data is being portrayed by the, not even media, but it's just, they take a whole country as a whole and create a data set that might have some issues in particular areas. One thing in our area, we get to talk to contractors around the country, and they have raw ground and they're exploding, like say in Tennessee, and they're just, all new stuff. Well, that has a little bit different challenges and it has a little bit different liabilities to it as well. Whereas like in a market like we are, that is a more mature market, it's we don't have thousands of acres that are going to just transition into new housing. What we have is a lot of renovation projects or updates or things like that. And so that type of market has a different feel and a different effect to how you get through some of these downturns, because it doesn't have as drastic of changes. So they might say, oh, the market in Phoenix is down 20%. And so that's really bad, which it is, but it's not always across the country exactly the same.
Yeah, we don't tend to see locally the spikes either way, honestly. I mean, you'd have to go back a ways. You got to go back to '08 to see residential really take a hit and everything slow down. But even then, it's not as extreme locally as it is nationally because of the fact that we don't have the spike up. So we're not coming off of some new high. You know what I mean? The market is what it is here. There is a large group of people. It's very populated. There's a lot of business here. So there's a consistency to the work. And that sort of protects us in times when the market turns down. Now, we're not seeing the market turn down. We're seeing that there's the same amount of work, maybe more available as has been in the past. So, we just want to make sure we put it out there that we're in real good shape. We're happy with where we are. We have a lot of backlog. And the biggest thing we need to focus on is the same thing we've talked about, for the last 2 years, which is just get better every day at doing what we do. Be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more proactive, a little bit more mindful of what you're doing. And so that we can, offset inflation increases with efficiency and until prices react. But outside of that, we're not really seeing anything that impacts us in the short term, at least not in the 6 to 12 month window.
Well, and there's also a difference between talk and reality. You go around, you're talking to other people, you're talking to the bankers or the insurance people, and some of them are saying things, could be happening. And then, we had our meeting today and I was sitting in on it, and jobs are already, contracts are coming in for spring projects and jobs are coming through. And I think there was a little bit of a lull a couple months ago before the elections happened. People were kind of curious to see what was going to happen. And then it feels like here in the last couple weeks, the amount of emails and the amount of leads that are coming back in have popped back up, even though there might have been a little, maybe a month or so lag there in September, October, and they've seemed to have rebounded already.
Yeah, Ford, something that came up, and I don't want to get too into it, now in specifics, but I was thinking back. I was talking to Dylan Reese, and I was thinking back to when you and I first started to talk about what this could be, what we would try and build Berg into, and all of a sudden it struck me that we're getting there. Like our original idea that we could build a solid mid-sized construction company, which you always said to me, like mid-sized heavy civil companies, they don't exist. People are either small or they're big. They're not. They don't have that niche mid-size. And we've managed, I think, to walk a line with that and to become a known value. You know what I mean? Like people recognize us as a brand. They have an expectation for the certain level of work they do, and rightly or wrongly, they think we do certain kinds of work. Certain people think certain things, but and we're sitting here at a point where there's a lot of companies around that are older and transitioning and either going to the next generation or trying to figure out what they want to be in what went on with COVID. And I feel like that as a team, we have built a company from the ground up that is built to survive and built to provide this service in this market. It's really interesting to see that we may be actually here where now we've arrived at where we were trying to get.
Well, without direction, you never get anywhere. But at the same time, you never feel like you're there. You never get to get out of the car. And after just traveling for the holidays with the two small children, you're really glad when you get out of the car at the very end of it. But unfortunately, in our business, there is no getting out of the car. It just keeps on going forward.
You don't get to take the scenic route, right? You're always in the weeds.
The fastest, quickest, most direct route, and doing it at particular times of the day definitely helps.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a difference between when we say, Ford has talked in the past that we set some target out 3 to 5 years, and then we turn around and a year or two later, we're somewhere in that window a little more quickly than we had planned, and that creates a tremendous amount of stress on the internal office side for supporting that kind of work and that kind of growth. But if you can just pick your head up, like Ford always says, and look for a second, all of a sudden, we have a lot of really strong people in place. Our teams have gotten stronger. And I really believe that we are prepared now to deal with the market that we work in. There was a time years ago with working with different clients, different GCs that Ford and I used to say, well, we don't want to work for them. They're impossible. And now I look back and we all have the discussion that it was actually us. And it was internally, we were not ready to work with some of the general contractors in our area who knew exactly what they were doing and what they expected. We either weren't able to meet what they expected or didn't do a good enough job covering our bases to make sure that we were protected. And I don't feel that way anymore. We walk into most contracts, we know what we're looking for in the contracts. We're attempting to negotiate certain things out. And we really are in a position where, in the meeting that Ford's talking about, we've talked about it and we've said we're going to continue to take on more work so that we can be at a point in 6 months where when Brian and Ford and I sit down and we say, like, what work do we have laid out? I'll be able to say, well, we have these 10 jobs that are 80%, 90%. We can have them if we want them and look at what's the best job for our team. What's the best area, the best opportunity, you know what I mean? All those things so that we get to pick where we work. And if we can just go ahead and continue our evolution of becoming more productive and more efficient in our work and better at what we do, there's really nothing stopping us from getting to finally be able to pick the work we want to do.
Well, and if we go back to estimating, there seems to be two trains of thought of how people estimate. Some people estimate constantly, no matter how much work they have. And then there's other firms out there that they estimate, then they get the work, then they go do the work, and then they estimate again once they have wrapped up. And it creates a real ebb and flow type thing. And so that's the benefit of trying to estimate even when you're busy, because you don't want to have those dips. And then it allows you to control your schedule more. I think that's one thing that we've been working on, and it's a constant struggle with the clients because they have their schedule in mind, but we have to try and work within what we can actually produce in the time frame that they offer to get the work done. And we have to make sure that we can actually do that to match what they're looking for.
Yeah, and even we're getting ready to start a few projects here, and we're closing out Hillside in Morgantown. We have Morgantown Crossing coming in Morgantown. You have Phoenixville, obviously in Phoenixville. I mean, there's probably 5 or 6 projects that we're starting that are within, I don't know, 15, 20 miles, and that is a change that our team will feel. You know what I mean? Right now, landfill guys are up at Brad's finishing up. That's a hike. We were up in Bethlehem. Doesn't mean we won't take that work, but we're really trying to put ourselves in a position where we can pick the jobs we want that best suit us. And it may be a little bit of a hike because it's a really good opportunity, or a client we really like, or an interesting job that we think impacts the community. Or it might be right in the middle of Morgantown because it makes sense and it's close and we can get the job done. So it's nice to be able to have those options.
Yeah, I think that, with what Brian's done with the back office and now having the team with him, and then, you have, I was just looking at an org chart the other day, or actually today, you were showing a semi-updated org chart, and don't get me started on org charts, but
Ford loves org charts.
yeah, exactly. I like titles and org charts.
Titles, org charts, family trees, all of Ford's favorite things.
23andMe, here we come. But no, I mean, there is actually, people in between the iron, the field. There's management that can help carry the jobs through. We joke about the amount of hats. Like right now, congratulations to Kelly and them having the baby, Blake, and but there's a team, because before that was just, we were joking about it this morning with Kelsey, because they're like, okay, how many hats you wearing? You need like 3 different color hats on so you can figure out which job. Brian does IT, so we always joking if he's had his IT hat on sometimes at the same time as well. But now there's more people. Now there's 4 or 5 people that are hopefully filling that void while Kelly's out, versus before it was like, oh well, I guess it throws it right back on where it came from. So you just couldn't really have that team to rely on.
Yeah, so I mean that's the gist of, I think, of what we wanted to talk about. You know what I mean? Was just get it out there, get where we are as a company, where we're going, that we're feeling very stable. There's not really any market concerns. It's really a weird spot we're in, because I think that you're being fed so much information about like the dire strait that we're in, this thing that's coming, that's out of, and it is, the downturn is always coming. You know what I mean? Until you hit rock bottom and then you go back up, there's always something. It's always not going to be as good as it is today. And clearly we're not in a position where we're riding high. We're not in the bottom, but there's nothing out there that really poses any real concern for our workflow in the near future. And we are having a lot of clients call us and do repeat business. I was looking at that in a list I was making. I mean, we're starting to see now where we're doing 3rd, 4th, 5th jobs in the commercial division. I mean, Scott's on like 67 for Ratelli, or something, you know what I mean? And Dymet, same way. There's massive numbers from Dymet over the years. In some of the landfills, we had repeat even in public work. But commercial, that's a big deal. Like when you start to see that you're the foreman and you step onto a job and it's -5, well, that means there's 4 jobs that went well enough that they trust us to do that work. And every time that happens, it's likely that the award of the job was a little bit less based on the fact that we were low. And the tolerances of the clients are going to be a little bit more because they know what to expect and we know what to expect from them. So that's something that our team should notice, over the coming, 6, 12 months, is that they're not on -1. They're on, -3, -4, -5. So that's a really good sign for our team and for us as a company. So that's another thing to, just notice.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked about, Brian and I went to a economist breakfast.
He's one of my favorite guys, Ford. I've seen him a bunch of times. I like him.
He does a nice job.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's very funny, very, zipping some lines in there. I mean, because when you're talking economy and stuff like that, it can get a little glazed over, especially if it was a morning time. So we definitely had to drink the coffee there. But, he was kind of, I would say, middle of the road is kind of where he came out. I took of his thing. He was actually talking about things that have happened, not as much about like the future. Because I mean,
did he go over the dry weight thing of the boat? How much that's like his favorite thing. He gets really excited about.
No dry weight.
He's doing a lot of movie references now. He must have a lot of time on his hands doing a lot of movie references. But
and he's going to talk about.
Talked a lot about remote work.
Yeah, exactly. But he was, it's interesting that he was kind of doing more history than he was doing future stuff. Because I mean, we joke about weathermen and a few other people, and that can be wrong as much. But I mean, literally, an economist I mean, what's their batting average? Like maybe like .0001. I mean, they're reading tea leaves and trying to give their best guidance, which is in general that's their job. But at the same time, it's hard to actually create a.
Well, from an economic standpoint, I always think it's tricky for them as well. Like I think that we can be pretty accurate with our forecasts of what we're going to do in a given year if we want to. But having said that, it's because we're in control of the actual product. You know what I mean? So in other words, if we say this year we want to be X for our top line, we're going to bid and work and hire to get to about that number. So you should be able to get close. Bottom line is a little trickier because there can be things that have other implications. But when you try and see people do that sort of like macroeconomic evaluation and predicting, like they don't have any control of any of the inputs. They don't have controls on the economic side, the business side, nothing. So they're just, it's guessing, but I do like it from a historical standpoint. That's what I enjoy with him is he goes over like what's happened. So at least you have a more educated view of the last 6 months.
Yeah, a lot of ways it's trending, right? It's like how has the market reacted? How has the economy reacted historically when these things appear, when these things have trended in this manner? And that's what they're doing, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we will see that they're not going to talk about it a whole lot right now, I don't think, because you're going to hear a lot about labor participation, right? That's the big buzz right now is that labor participation is way down. The number of people that actually want to work as a measure of the total population is going down. You combine that with the retirement of the baby boomers. And
it's been down though. I mean, that's
decline
like
birth
since
rate.
2019.
That's what they're saying. They're saying actually in 2017, 2018, you could already see this happening. So they're going to continue to talk about that. But I think the one thing we will see is the labor market shifting. You know what I mean? Like we have been in a extraordinary situation with the labor market with people being in the driver's seat. And I think that continues, but I think it also shifts and it becomes more about being a place that people want to work. I think there will be enough workers. I think the question is, are you a place that people want to work? And, that's important as well. And each of us feeds into that. You know what I mean? It's not just about, Ford opening up the pocketbook or you working to improve benefits. That's part of it. But the other part of it is the actual boots on the ground, the guys and the culture and wanting to be a part of it. So that when you're looking around and you're saying like, we need a few more guys. The best way to get good quality guys is to have those teams run as efficiently as possible. And if they do, and it's a place people want to work, then I think that people will be there to get. But I think if you're just a company that's just, well, I'm going to just bang my fist and put out an ad and we're going to get more people, that's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, I think that has been a transition that probably is not cyclical. I mean, I don't know the last time that transition has happened at this level. Maybe it's been slowly getting here, but I do think that that's a transition that probably is here to stay. And I don't think that some companies we talk to, they have this vision that it's going to return to the old days. And I think that's pretty much really wishful thinking. If that's the way that they were used to doing something, what do we tell people all the time? We might not have the answer for what the problem is, but we need to be in business for a long time, so we're going to have to figure it out. We might not have the answer yet, but we're going to keep trying until we figure it out.
Yeah, there's no end in sight here. So if we want to keep moving forward, we're going to have to figure out how to do that, right?
Yeah, so I think we covered everything on the topic. What do you think, Brian? We got anything left for this?
That sounds great to me. You guys did awesome. Thanks for joining us today, folks. We hope you come back for another podcast on another day.